On your Thursday episode of Locked On Raptors, RJ Barrett is about to begin what will be a career-defining season.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Thursday, October the 2nd, and I am your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 12 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Instagram. You can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. Link in the description of the podcast. Free to join as always. Great place. Come hang out. And with the season starting, no better time. We talk about games in there. We talk about all kinds of good stuff. It's a lovely thing. Please come be part of our listener community. Again, 100% free to join. Always. On today's show, we are talking about a guy who was one of, let's say, the main characters of Raptors Media Day. And I'm extending that to Bobby Webster's press conference last Friday as well. RJ Barrett, who we've talked about plenty on this show regarding his fit with the starting five, the contractual situation that has him as the most likely member of this team traded by the trade deadline. We're going to get into all of it with him today. We're going to get into just setting the stage for his season. We'll talk about the stuff that works, the stuff that doesn't, and how he can get back to the stuff that works more often. We'll talk about his looming extension eligibility, which kicked in just yesterday. He's eligible for a 3-year, $132 million contract. I don't think he's getting that, but maybe there's something the Raptors can work out if things go perfectly this year. And we'll get into what a perfect season would look like. But before we do that, we got to pick up some business from yesterday's show. If you know the show, if you listen to the show, you know that I am feeling very strongly these days that we need to do better than CMB as the nickname for Raptors rookie Collin Murray-Boyles. Talked about it yesterday with Chelsea Late. We came up with a couple of possibilities. The Boiler was kicked around. Mr. Chloe Kitts was kicked around by Chelsea. I have to say, the Locked On Raptors Discord server is many things, but sometimes it really comes through. And listener Ben, who rarely has good ideas, I think has landed on the nickname for Collin Murray-Boyles. Tell your friends, tell everybody. The nickname for Collin Murray-Boyles, the stock pot. You might sit there and think, what? What's that all about? It works on every single level. I'll tell you what it's all about. First of all, the stock pot, thick, strong. When it's filled up with water, immovable on the stove. It's the workhorse of any kitchen. He's getting rave reviews about his defense from Scotty Barnes, from Darko Rajakovic, from everybody. Steals, blocks, stocks, if you will. Going to be a big part of his game, one would assume. And then, of course, what do you do in a stock pot? You boil stuff. Boils, even. That's what a stock pot does. It boils. Collin Murray-Boyles, the stock pot. Tell your friends this is the name. I will be putting it in Matt Devlin's ear next time I see him at a Raptors-related event. The stock pot. Anyway, business out of the way. Let's get into RJ Barrett, not a guy who really comprises all that many stocks or compiles all that many stocks over the course of a regular season. But hey, maybe he can change. We will get into, again, some of the bigger picture stuff, on the court, ways he can find, a niche within this team that can make him viable as a longer term fit. But let's just set the stage really for what's going on here with RJ Barrett. This is, I think, fair to say, going to be a career defining season for RJ Barrett. He's someone who has 2 years left on his contract. He is extension eligible, as we talked about. We'll get more into that. It really is going to be the year, I think, that determines whether or not he can be an additive piece on a serious team that's trying to win games, or if he's just someone who's good, talented, but not impactful at a high enough level in the area of winning the minutes he plays and driving forward progress when he's on the floor. Two ways, all of that, on a team that is trying to be competitive. He had a great season last year. 21 points, 6 boards, 5 assists. He was awesome. The team also won 30 games and lost the minutes he played pretty significantly. There's a difference. Not all 21-point seasons are made the same. And yes, he was very productive last season. Productive does not always equate to impact. And I think this is the season where if RJ Barrett does have high-level winning impact in him, it's got to come out this year. Otherwise, his career, it's not to say he's not going to be in the league. He's too talented for that. But I think it's going to be the difference between, is he a player who can be on teams that are winning and competitive and going deep in the playoffs, or is he going to be on a guy on teams who don't really have super high ambitions? Is he someone who eats innings for lesser teams? Is he someone who, becomes like a playoff liability for teams that they have to scheme around, all that type of stuff? And I think it's pretty clear from Media Day, from Bobby Webster last week, that RJ Barrett is top of mind for a lot of people this season. Bobby in particular, picking up the thread from his presser last Friday. Yet I'm talking about this being an evaluation period for the team. He said there's a 0% chance this roster will be the same by the end of the year to what it is right now. And he talked about RJ Barrett separately regarding him needing to be more efficient, needing to improve his defense, his rebounding, all that stuff. Like, I don't think it takes a lot. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to connect the dots here. One of the key guys being evaluated on this team is RJ Barrett. Everyone else is paid. Brandon Ingram has been paid. Emmanuel Quickley has been paid. Scotty Barnes is on the max contract, and he's starting it this year. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. Jakob Poeltl is paid for many, many years to come. Like, they've decided, hey, these four guys we're investing in, we believe in. And in today's NBA, there's not a lot of money to throw around for guys that you don't believe in. And it's going to require the best season of RJ Barrett's career. Maybe not in terms of like raw point totals. I actually think we'll get into it. Lesser overall production is probably going to mean a better, more impactful RJ Barrett than it did last season. But like, it just like, it's very clear that the team's sort of plan for this season hinges a lot on what is RJ Barrett going to give us? And if he can't give us what we need, how do we pivot out of him into something else to improve the team, improve the fit, whatever it might be, or to just make the books a little cleaner, right? Like, this is a team that is slightly over the tax. Everyone makes a big deal out of that. I don't especially care about that. They have good players. That's fine. If they are slightly over the tax, there are ways to get out of it, whether it's you trade Ochai Agbaji or you find a way to move Barrett. Whatever it is, I think these guys are smart. They don't worry about the cap stuff. The cap stuff will sort itself out. And if they're in the tax, they're in the tax. They're not in the aprons. They're not in the second apron. They can make trades, all that type of stuff. It's not this big inhibitor on them doing things team building wise. But, again, back to Media Day on Monday. I mean, RJ Barrett was grilled about his defense and buying in. And Darko Rajakovic talked a lot about how everyone's going to have to buy in on the defensive end of the floor. Everyone's going to have to be pulling the same direction. Everyone's going to have to win for one another. And RJ Barrett, to his credit, said all the right things, right? He was asked about the sort of misconceptions about his game by Will Liu. And he said, yeah, like, I'm not a horrible defender. Everyone says I'm horrible. I'm not horrible. I mean, reasonable people can disagree. There have certainly been times where RJ Barrett has been horrible at defense, and particularly the off-ball stuff. That's got to get cleaned up this year for sure. In terms of the efficiency stuff that Bobby Webster alluded to, I mean, there was a big drop-off for him last year in efficiency. He was excellent after the trade in 23-24. Last year, very middling, just not anything that's knocking your socks off. When you couple that with poor defense, just not a terribly impactful player. We'll get into some of the numbers coming up. But, he's clearly someone who knows what the deal is this season. He talked about his role changing because Brandon Ingram is here. He seems ready to accept a different role. And I think the way he was used last year was just not the way to optimize RJ Barrett. Like, I think RJ Barrett's talented. He's got stuff going for him. He's got to be used in the right way. And he has to be, I think, streamlined and have the fat trimmed from his game to be really effective. And the defense just has to come along. And look, I don't think it's out of the question. We'll get into what the sort of best case scenario for RJ is this year. I don't think it's out of the question that he plays himself into the plans of the team. If you're winning games as a team, it kind of solves a lot of problems for you and things fall into place, and investing money in guys becomes a little bit easier. And again, they still have 2 years here with RJ Barrett to figure something out. Yeah, maybe his value is higher now or this summer than it would be next season when he's an expiring contract. But even then, maybe that's not the case. Expiring contracts are valuable in the NBA these days. And so maybe that's a thing where, they just kind of like play to the end of the contract. Like, that's an option here too. Play it out, see what happens over the next 2 seasons, then evaluate from there with all the information you can possibly have. But this season does feel like the inflection point for whether or not RJ is going to be on this team long-term or not. If I had to guess right now, he is not getting his next contract from the Toronto Raptors. But again, we'll get in later today into some ways in which that could change. And I don't think it's off the table that RJ, an optimized version of RJ on a team that makes more sense around him, a team that's deeper, a team that's asking less of him, is possible that we could see that this year. And so we'll get into that. We'll come back on the other side. We're going to get into the extension eligibility and just sort of the nuts and bolts of that, and the reasons why the team might be reticent to pay him right now before we get into the stuff that he could do to turn their minds around. We will do that coming up in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. Look, I am someone who has a hard time, especially in the winter months, getting myself up to exercise. It can be a tough slog. I'm not in the best of shape right now. And just having it in the house, having a Peloton, having all of the workouts and the sort of gamification of exercise there at my fingertips, probably something I should look into, frankly, because it's good for you. Exercise. It's a shame that the people who are like exercise is good are right, but they're right. And Peloton can be a great way for you to get into it. And again, gamify the experience a little bit. So it's fun. And you're competing against yourself and all the good stuff. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Back at it here, your Thursday edition of Locked On Raptors. Just a reminder, if you haven't seen on the socials, I mentioned it a couple times on the show, October 22nd at Last Supper Books in Hamilton, 148 James Street North, right downtown, right close to all the transit if you want to take a train into town. I'm hosting a watch party at Last Supper. We are going to watch Raptors Hawks. We're going to do a little Q&A. And a really fun thing, it's a bookstore, so we're going to do a little book exchange. I got a million basketball books lying around. I'm sure you do too. I've read a lot of them. I don't really need them lying around. Maybe I'll swap it out for one I haven't read. That's kind of the idea. Bring a book, leave it with one you haven't read before. It's going to be great. Come hang out. We would love to see you. And you can message me individually on socials to RSVP. I'm also going to put the RSVP form in the link in the description of the podcast. If you want to come hang out in Hamilton, October 22nd, Last Supper Books, I'll be there. We'll be hanging. Space is limited too, so make sure you get your spot booked in that form right away. We'd love to see it. All right, let's get to it. RJ Barrett, extension eligible as of yesterday, I believe. Eligible for a 3-year, $132 million extension. That's the max he can get extending off of his current number, which is just under $30 million a year. He's not getting 132. I can promise you that. That would make him, I believe, the highest paid player on an annual average on the Toronto Raptors. Not happening. Based on the way things are set up with this team, I would guess that if the Raptors were going to pay RJ his next deal, it probably comes in at a number in between Emmanuel Quickley's 32.5 and Jakob Poeltl's 27, something like that, in the back part of his extension. Just the way the hierarchy of the team is set, they seem pretty clear. Ingram, Barnes, Quickley are our top 3 guys, and after that, everyone's gonna have to kind of fall in line money-wise. And so, I don't think RJ Barrett's getting a huge raise off of that number from the Raptors or, frankly, at this point, any other team around the league. Again, make or break season. This is a year where he's got to prove he can affect winning basketball. With the second aprons, with the way the league is set up, it's just really hard for teams to justify paying $25, $30, $35 million to someone who's not going to help them win on the highest level. You can't have contracts that are not doing a lot for you. And it's not to say, again, that RJ is not good, not talented. He's got a lot going for him. But in a league where it's as competitive as ever and winning is extremely hard, you really need to optimize the money you're putting into your team. And I'm not sure $35 million for RJ is out there for any team right now, unless it's a team just kind of looking again for an innings eater type to just kind of be on the team, be an adult, score some points, and probably lead a team to 30 wins type of thing. And again, it makes it sound like I don't like RJ Barrett, and everyone gets mad at me when I talk about this very real reality that we face with RJ Barrett and the crossroads that him and the Raptors are at. It's not me hating RJ Barrett as much as everyone loves to say it's hating. It's not. It's just understanding the financial realities of the NBA and listening to the signs we've heard from the team itself, from Jake Fisher and others who report on the Raptors having told RJ Barrett's camp, like, yeah, you're probably going to be involved in trade talks as the season gets going and we're trying to buy. Like, this is all stuff that we have. This is all factual stuff. The Raptors, they have paid 4 of their guys. They have not paid RJ Barrett. All of a sudden, the money starts to go, it starts to get a little bit slim. And they've got other guys to pay too. Grady Dick's extension eligible in a year. After that, you're going to be looking at not far behind that during the life of these other contracts they already have on the books. If you like Jacoby Walter, he's going to get paid again. The guys you liked last year as rookies, their deals are going to come up pretty quick. Mobo and Shed in particular, if they're guys who are going to be around at all, they're going to get paid after this season. Like it just, life comes at you fast in the NBA, and with the aprons and the luxury tax, it's just, you can't just have all of these guys on your roster unless you're contending, which we'll get into is like the one way you might be able to justify paying full freight for this team and giving RJ Barrett his next deal. Again, for 132, I don't see that from any team in the NBA. And again, it's because he just doesn't have the underlying numbers that suggest he is driving winning basketball when he's on the floor. His on-offs last year, pretty uninspiring. All told, the Raptors were 1.1 points per 100 better when he was on versus when he was off. So a slight improvement when he was on, but they still lost his minutes by 3.4 points per 100 possessions. In terms of the on-off differential, your guys, Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, Jakob Poeltl, they're all in the sort of +3 to +5 range in terms of their differential. And the team lost their minutes by less points when they were on the floor than they lost RJ's minutes. Efficiency-wise, 1.09 points per shot attempt. That was 31st percentile at Barrett's position across the NBA per clean the glass. That's not great. Bottom third is not where you want to be in terms of efficiency, especially when you had the usage that RJ Barrett had last year, which was pretty high usage. Let me just pull it up here quickly. His usage last season was 97th percentile at his position. At forward, 29.3% usage. That's, if you're not efficient and you have that level of usage, that's not driving winning basketball. It's just not. You're not optimizing possessions. You get into the data in terms of the defense. Like the defense is worse when he's on the floor by a few points per 100 possessions. The offense was a little better, sure. The offense was not good when he was on. It was like 110 offensive rating, which is not a good offensive rating. It was worse when he was off. Fair enough. Credit to him. And look, he had a rough context just the same as everyone else on the team. And if I'm going to chalk up Scotty's efficiency drop last year to a poor team context, I've got to do that for RJ as well to some extent. And so, yeah, like I don't think last season's environment was conducive to getting the best out of any of these guys. It was a team that wasn't really trying, that had a ton of injuries, and RJ in particular in the first half of the year was just asked to do way too much for what his skill set is. And that's not fair to him. Like, it's not totally fair to judge him on that, but also it's what we saw. And so again, it just kind of feeds into this. RJ's a good player who doesn't necessarily drive positive basketball, though I can be forgiving on the offensive stuff because we have seen, as we'll get into in a little bit, some really, really good RJ offense as well that I think can be tapped back into this year with health and with Brandon Ingram and just the team making more sense. It's the defensive end where I'm a little less forgiving. Like, RJ was asked again on media day about his defense, and he just kind of pensively said, I'm not a horrible defender. And like, horrible might be a strong word, but he has not been good. Like, on the ball, sure, he's capable of offering some resistance, though I do find he gets moved off his spot pretty easily by bigger wings. You can't really guard your Jason Tatums of the world, which is a big ask. Not everyone can do that. Very few guys can, but he's not someone who you can just go throw on a big opposing wing and hey, okay, he's going to offer enough resistance at least till the help comes. It's not always the case. He's pretty slow moving laterally. It's crazy. He's like so fast on offense, moving straight downhill, right? But when he's moving laterally, he just kind of gets blown by and he's not super strong on his spot. Again, people's bodies are built differently. You're good going one way, you're less good going the other way. Like, that's normal. He's also someone just off the ball. He's just so inattentive and slow to react and just kind of gives away points by just not picking up. Transition defense, really rough stuff from him. Getting back cut and back cut and back cut and back cut some more. Like, that was just a recurring trend for him last year. And I think you just can't be having that amount of taking off the table defensively when your offense is not terribly efficient. And that was the problem with RJ's overall impact stuff last year, was the offense fell off a cliff. Not a cliff. That's unfair. It fell off from where it was the year before. He was asked to do too much. And then the defense was just non-existent. And that's not that. There's a reason the team won 30 games with RJ Barrett being a very heavily featured player. Again, I think there's a world in which he can be less heavily featured and be way more effective. Defensively, I certainly think he can be better. My guess is on a team where they're actually trying again, and the whole ethos is we're giving a damn, we're being super aggressive, we're forcing turnovers, we're getting it on the run. My guess is he's going to buy in to some extent to the aggressive defensive style they want to play. And for a team that's trying, his offensive load will be lessened. Maybe there's a little bit more just kind of give a damn you can get from RJ on defense. And that's worth a lot. Like, that's a big part of defense, is just being attentive and caring and being focused. I'm not sitting here saying RJ has to be like the prime Kawhi on defense, right? Like, he can just be merely passable. I think we saw last year, Scotty Barnes is good enough in concert with Jakob Poeltl as a backline in the defense that you don't need to have ace ringer defenders out on the perimeter. It's nice to have them for sure, but you can have okay defense, passable defense, competent team defense, and get by with the mess cleaner that is Scotty Barnes, just fixing all of the problems on the back end. That's how good he was. You couple that with being a little aggressive, forcing some turnovers, high event creation, turning that into offense. Like, there's a league average defender somewhere here in RJ Barrett. We just haven't seen it yet. Again, it's go time. This is the year to see it, because if we don't, then yeah, I think his time in Toronto is probably limited. We'll come back on the other side and get into what a version of RJ who actually plays himself into the plans for this team long-term might look like this year, and wrap things up. We'll do that coming up in just one sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. If you feel like you got a hunch on a game this weekend in the NFL, hey, I think the Lions are going to win. Throw some money on them, $5 if they win. You get $300 to play around with on the whole site. And hey, great time to throw some money around if you are into that type of thing. There's NBA futures bets. There's NHL futures bets. The season starts next week. That's a lot of fun if you're a hockey fan. And then, of course, the baseball playoffs are going on, and I always advocate the happiness hedge. Bet against your favorite team, and if they lose, you get some money out of the deal. I know we got a lot of Blue Jays fans, probably some Mariners fans listening to the show. If you are a fan of one of those teams and are worried that they're going to let you down, bet against them with your bonus bets that you got from your one $5 bet that won, and you'll get some money out of the deal, at least if your team lets you down in October, as most baseball teams do. So what are you waiting for? Head to FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get started. Get those $300 in bonus bets. Wrapping things up here as we continue to talk about the man of the hour this week. The man of the hour this week. I'm good at English. The RJ Barrett of it all, right? He's been talked about a lot, understandably, considering everything we've talked about through the first 20 minutes of the show. We have seen a version of RJ Barrett that absolutely rocks, particularly on offense. Like, we're not too far away from the back part of 23-24, which is just 32 games. It's not a whole gigantic sample, but the process of what we saw in the back part of RJ's season in 23-24 was so good that I think getting back to that process, it at least warrants some time to see if you can figure that out and kind of get him back to that level of efficiency. He was so good after the trade. 22 points a game, 6 boards, 4 assists, 39% from 3. That's a big deal. 39% from 3. If he's taken threes, he only took 3.8. If he can take 5 or 6 threes and hit that many, man, you're absolutely cooking. If he's only taken 4 and he's hitting 39, no, you're pretty happy too. 60.5% on twos. And of course, the big thing that year was he just could not miss at the rim. He was unbelievable at the rim. He shot 72% at the rim in those 32 games. And you think about it, like, I can envision it right now. The best of that version of the team, which had Pascal Siakam on it for a hot minute, then they had the full Poeltl, Trent, Barnes, quickly Barrett lineup, which had really good numbers for a small amount of time. Never forget those 300 possessions of being damn good, like a plus 11 net rating. In that stretch, like, he just, there were driving lanes, there was shooting on the floor, there was space. They had His role very much streamlined. There wasn't this sort of pound the ball for eternity, just kind of going left, trying to probe on these drives. It was like, okay, RJ's flying out of the corner. He's getting a pin down screen. He's catching it on the move. And there's enough space around him that teams are horrified of digging down on him. He's just getting these wide open, seas parted drives to the basket where he was finishing incredibly. I don't think he's going to get back to 72% at the rim, but he's got to be better than the 61% he was last year. And again, I think context based, there was a lot to point to with that rim accuracy last year with the team and just the way they were not set up for success. The first part of the year, no Quickly. Barnes misses 11 games. Barrett in that time was very inefficient. And it makes sense. All of his drives, there was 2 or 3 guys waiting to help. Everyone knew where he was going, which is one thing when there's a lot of different options on the floor and you're the 4th or 5th guy and you're able to kind of get to your spots and the defense is already compromised and you have those easy advantages to just go and exploit. It's a far different thing when you're the guy or the second guy in the offense and everyone knows, okay, RJ's going left. He's going to try to score at the rim. Let's just send all of our help there. We're not worried about these shooters around here. Not at all. Totally. The context of last year probably fed into him having a pretty miserable rim finishing. That said, 61% last year is the second best he's ever shot at the rim in any portion of a season. That 72% he shot with the Raps is clearly the best. 61% last year is the next best. And beyond that, he's been under 60% his entire career from the rim through his whole Knicks career. And so it's not like he has a huge track record of finishing well at the rim, but I do think we saw them unlock him a little bit with just trimming down the roll a little bit and saying, hey, you're a play finisher. You had 4 assists, kind of just part of the machine that we run. I do think there was also some stuff we saw last year that can be blended with that version of RJ we saw in 23-24. In particular, the pick and roll creation stuff. I think if RJ has time as like the nominal point guard with bench units this year, where you just dot shooting around him and have a traditional big, it's like RJ plus Grady, Walter, Ochai, or Jameson Battle or something, and then you have maybe Scotty at the 5, or you have Jakob Poeltl at the 5. That can be a great lineup. That can really help RJ just kind of see the floor, have space, do his thing, run the offense, be successful, rack up assists, everybody's happy. That can happen. If you couple that with the player he was at the back part of 23-24, where he scored 1.23 points per shot attempt, which is incredibly good. And he was, again, low touch time, getting it on the catch and moving exactly where you needed him to go, and taking catch and shoot threes when they came to him in the flow, not passing them up, just being eager to take them when they came. Like, that can be a very successful version of RJ Barrett for this team. Like I said, I think there's like a slightly above average version of RJ on defense somewhere hidden within. We saw it in the past, 2020, 2021 with the Knicks. It wasn't a great defensive season from him, but it was like a perfectly average defensive season. The team did not lose when he was on the floor in terms of their defensive effectiveness. He would just help them be fine. He was a perfectly competent team defender playing for Tom Thibodeau that year. And look, it was a really well-coached defensive team. They had to win on their defense, and he certainly helped them do that. He lost the defensive juice a little bit in the following years after that, and it's ultimately the reason he got traded. It's just there's got to be an average defender in there somewhere. Again, on the ball, I think he can be fine. Off the ball, it really is just like, stop falling asleep, be more attentive, and all of a sudden, you're not getting back cut 100 times, and you're not giving up those easy points. You're not getting killed in transition, and you're just fine. Again, just be competent. Just be a guy who is a functioning cog within a healthy team defense. You couple that with a streamlined offensive package that we saw him run in that 23-24 season with a little bit of bench creation sprinkled in, along the starters, like, again, playing with Ingram, Quickly, Barnes, Poeltl. That's got to be where RJ is at his play finishing, low touch time best, right? That's where the 23-24 version needs to come in. And then he can expand his wings a little bit with the bench units, which, again, there are going to be a lot of staggered bench units. He's going to play a lot with second units. I think there's a real opportunity for him with Jamal Shed not necessarily being like a classic point guard who's going to run 100 pick and rolls for you. RJ Barrett might be able to fill in that gap in the minutes he plays in the second unit. And I think playing with better players, he stands to benefit from that. I mean, if you just look at his efficiency last year, when he played with Scotty, it was like high 50s, totally good. When he didn't play with Scotty, it was low 50s, very bad. Like, there was a pretty clear correlation there. RJ with better players is helpful and good. And I think as much as the starting five, I got to see it to believe it as far as the fit goes. I can totally envision how this works. And it's just kind of closing my eyes and looking back to the 23-24 team, especially during that stretch, the mini stretch, the most beautiful stretch of Raptors basketball of the last 4 or 5 years. The 4 games they had with Siakam, Quickly, Barrett, and Barnes just doing the thing with Pirtle at the 5 before Pirtle got hurt. That was a lot of fun, man. And I do think that's the sort of blueprint you got to go and try to tap into. They clearly figured something out with RJ that year that they weren't able to kind of bring back to the table last year because of the team circumstances. That's the way RJ Barrett plays himself into the long-term plans of this team. That's the way RJ Barrett, kind of backs up what he says at media day, where he was like, yeah, like, I don't really care about me. I just want to win. I just want to be part of the team. Like, that's how he backs that up. And I think it's on the team more than anything else to put him in that position, because he seems willing to do it, has been willing to do it in the past. I think with RJ too, I mean, it's tough. He could do all this stuff and it still might not make sense financially, right? Like, this is going to be an expensive team. The one way, again, that you can justify paying a lot of money for a team, being in the tax, all that, is just be extremely good. And like, I don't think that this team has like a 50+ win ceiling. I'd be shocked. But if they were to get there, my guess is an optimized version of RJ Barrett within this new context is a big part of that formula. If they are able to like super overshoot their projections. Again, I don't see it. I don't think it's going to happen. But if they're managing like a 50+ win pace come the trade deadline, maybe they just let it play out a little longer, right? They probably won't extend them, but maybe they just wait and see, okay, how real is this? Maybe we see it in the playoffs. Maybe we see it next year a little bit before we make a call here. I think RJ, like, you're always going to have the inside track to extend and keep RJ around as the Raptors. It's his hometown team. He seems to want to be here. Like, I think you can use that a little bit to sort of slow play this one. This is not the typical flight. This is not OG Anunoby where you're worried about him walking in his final year. I think this is somewhere where, like, hey, maybe you just take this into next season. If he's playing really well and it's working and the team is good and he's putting up like a clean, effective 16 points, 5 boards, 5 assists in a sort of trimmed down role where he's got a little bit of creation on his play, but mostly is a play finisher type who's giving you league average defense. Again, all stuff I think is possible. It's within RJ Barrett as a player to do that. Then I think maybe they don't trade him. Maybe they just say, hey, like, what are we going to do that's better than this? Maybe something comes along, but it's tough to make trades in season. Maybe RJ's just part of the team. Maybe Ochai Abaji's the casualty that gets them under the tax, and RJ just sticks around, and then they play it into the summer. Maybe he boosts his trade value even, and some other team goes, hey, he can help us win. Maybe maybe RJ plus some stuff is a deal where we're happy to take him on, and we send out a player who's better fitting for the Raptors, right? Like, all things become possible if RJ Barrett, over the course of the next 5-6 months, proves that he's a winning player. Again, career-defining season for him in a lot of ways, and it might be a sort of, team build-defining season for the Raptors as far as, like, is this the team they have, or is it going to have to pivot with that RJ spot being the most easy one to pivot out of because other guys are just locked in? It's a fascinating year. I'm rooting for RJ, man. Again, I don't want it to sound like I'm just hating on RJ Barrett. I like RJ Barrett. He's very affable as a guy. He's a good quote. He's fun to, to watch succeed for his hometown team. It's awesome. But the reality of team building is the reality of team building. And this year is going to be huge for exactly what his place within that team building process for the Raptors is going to be. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for rocking with the show. We'll be back again tomorrow, as I'm going to do a little fun, stupid little game by myself, I think, unless I rope in a guest. But it might just be a solo stupid little game where I'm going to make one wish for every player on the Toronto Raptors going into the season. One thing that if I just, like, you gave me the opportunity to wish one thing onto each of these guys, we'll run through what that thing would be. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for rocking with the show. Tell your friends about Collin Murray-Boyles being the stock pot officially, canonically. And we will be back on Friday. Thanks so much. Discord, link in the description of the podcast, 100% free to join. As always, follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend, whoever you support the show. Very much appreciate you. And again, come out to Last Supper Books, October 22nd. Come hang out. We'd love to see you there as we watch the game, chat a little bit, maybe have some drinky poos. It's going to be a good time. Either way, thanks so much for hanging. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. He's back, baby.